Hi everyone, thanks very much for joining us today to the next of our virtual series. So we're joined here by Wilma and Bill from the HRC Group to talk about the importance of financial planning as a sort of form of self-care. So I will pass you over to Wilma and Bill.
Hi, thank you very much. So we'll start off and do a quickly introduction. We're HRC Group. We are part of Quilter Financial Planning, who are a FTSE 250 company, and we do financial planning and advice. But obviously today we're here just to kind of give you an overview of what financial planning is and how that is a form of self-care. I do want to stress that anything we discuss today isn't specific advice to you. And if you do feel that you're affected by anything we talk today, then please reach out to a financial planner and discuss that so that you can get specific advice that is relevant for you specifically. We're just given like an overview of financial planning overall. So I'm sorry, it's not going to the next. There we go. So a quick agenda for today. Obviously going to do introductions. As part of that introduction, Bill will give a little bit of a market update and what's going on, the life stages of your financial planning life, how you can learn to know yourself through budgeting, defining what your dreams and aspirations are in life, how you're going to get there, what's your ideal, which is your dream, versus reality, I guess, because life throws things at you. Then how you incorporate planning and implementation into that, how employers can play a big role in individuals' financial planning, and then obviously how we can help you. And then the lovely topic of ethics, which is everywhere at the moment. So we'll start off with me. I'll introduce myself. So I'm Wilma. I'm a financial planning consultant here at HRC Group, but I also do estate planning. And I've got two children, both under, well, one's 2 and one's 4. So they're both under school age. And yeah, I current lived experience of the challenges that brings, the cost of childcare, the cost of, and to be honest, before I did financial planning, I didn't really engage with a financial planner and I didn't know what it was all about. And I really wish I did do some financial planning before having kids, for example, because that's where I'm at the moment. But I think a lot of people would say that for retirement or any area of their life where they're suddenly affected by something that reduces your income, something that takes more income, that's costing more, like sickness or illness. And often people wish they did planning at the event when it's a bit too late. So we're trying to change that a little bit, and through our own lived experiences, I guess. In my own spare time, I play netball 3 nights a week. And I also support a charity called Escape, where we support families. It's usually referrals through sort of social services and things, but families who have a loved one struggling with addiction. So, and from that side of things, there's always sort of financial abuse involved and everything like that. So yeah, I'll pass it over to Bill and introduce Bill.
Well, it's difficult to follow that. Hello, everybody. Thanks for giving up a bit of your lunch. I hope you get a lunch hour. When I started off in business, there was such a thing as a lunch hour. Nowadays, most people are lucky to get 10 minutes. There have been lots of changes in the time I've been advising people. Not all of them good. Some of them have been good. You can read about my biography. It just means I'm old. And I've seen a few things, and we see clients and what happens to them. And I think, like Wilma, what our basic job is to make you and our clients happier and richer. If you want to be poorer and sadder, then talk about politics or football or something else. But what we're here to do is get you in control of your finances, get control in your life insofar as you can be, and carry on and having some decency and happiness in the future, and make your future wonderful as it can be. And I think that is attainable for everybody that we talk to. So I'd encourage whoever you are to get in touch with whoever you want to advise you and find out about them and you and yourself. And we'll try and start that process today. So I'd like to kind of just start off by talking about the company a little bit. We started the company 20 years ago. I bought the first HRC Group kettle, and we were actually worried about things. At the time, we thought it'd be a paperless office. We believed in tech. Then we got subsumed by all the paperwork in the world, which is necessary to make sure that you, our clients, are protected, and you have the confidence in that. So that was a bit of a learning curve. And now I'm very pleased to say that we're surrounded, like most financial planners that you will meet and engage with, by lots of people to help them out. This is not, and never can be, a one-person band. It's something where you need a collegiate approach, because whilst I have specializations and expertise in some areas, as does Wilma, nobody can be an expert at everything. And you need to speak to people within the business, sometimes outside the business, to make sure that the clients get the best expertise that can be available to them to deliver their goals. Your goals are your goals. If you want to go on holiday at Valparaiso, if you want to go to Madagascar or Peru, if you just want to stay at home, if you want to go to a caravan in Blythe, it's all absolutely and equally valid. We'll make sure that you get a way of doing that if that's possible. It's like everything else. The sooner you start, the better you finish. But I just wanted to start off with kind of talking about where we are now. If I ask the average member of the public how they feel at lunchtime on a Wednesday, they'd probably say, if I can dip into a colloquialism, bit knackered. Everything seems to be slightly contradictory. News you see on the television is usually bad or really good. They start off the news with it's really bad, and they finish off with, oh, and another thing, and a little lamb was born, and isn't life wonderful? Finances are like that. The FTSE hit a pretty much record high on Monday. It's down a bit today. Does that mean that much to an individual's pension or investment? Not necessarily, because a lot of things are down. Inflation, you'll have seen today, is up. It's supposed to come down, but food prices have clobbered everybody. We're all human beings. We all need food. A lot of us are becoming more familiar with the likes of the 25p tin of bargain tomatoes in Aldi than they thought they would be. A lot of us aren't hanging around in the kind of nether regions of what's that, Waitrose or whatever it is, and so we're a victim of the kind of information we get from central government, investment houses, people who produce the news. We were at a meeting with a fund manager the other day who tells us that there's full employment in this country. Great, full employment. I volunteer at a food bank in Newcastle, and the one that was on Daniel Blake. We stand outside St James's Park on match days, so if you're there, give us a shout on Sunday. And 40% of the people coming to see us are working. Now, that means that, they may not be they're not getting paid, but they're working. They may not be doing many hours, but they're working officially, and work isn't paying for them. The budget gave equal attention to putting as much as you like into a pension scheme, to clobbering people on universal credit. The macro stats that you see will conflict with your lived experience. Either properly, Wilma will tell you all about that when it comes to things like childcare. You see a great headline, but then you see the actual reality of it, and something can go wrong. So it's implementation, delivery. You see a press release saying that they're going to sort the roads out or make cycleways. You try and get a cycle to work, and there's somebody parked in the cycle thing. It isn't all of that. We talk to people at work all the time. I'm dealing with an awful lot of people who are unhappy at work. Teachers, doctors, nurses, civil servants, entrepreneurs. Everybody is feeling at the moment. Don't blame yourself, feeling a bit tired. The macro economy is seeing private sector wages go up by about 7%, public sector by 4.5%. But if you look at the rate of inflation and you compare that to wages over the last 10 years, we've only been in positive territory for about 2 years. That means 80% of the time, in the last 10 years, your standard of living's been coming down. Maybe even not yours individually, it depends which sector you're in and things like that. But we're in a situation where as a country, because 80% of our economy is based on the service economy, that's people doing things for others. If wages go up, then prices go up as well. And so the government's got a big problem because it's got a debt of £2.3 trillion. What's the cost of servicing that debt? It's about 40 billion a year. What's the cost of servicing that debt next year? Because interest rates have gone up for them as well as everybody else with a mortgage or a credit card or anything else, about 85 billion. What's the difference? 45 billion. What's that mean? That means the defence budget's just being spent on next year's credit card payment. So there's all kinds of issues going on. Those people who work in tech and the knowledge economy, and we've got great hopes of the fourth industrial revolution in Tyneside coming through and helping us out with that. After all, we delivered the first knowledge economy in the world. So you've got things like decarbonisation and deglobalisation, which are actually probably, causing inflation. The things that cause deflation, which are digitization and a certain level of debt, they're actually they're good for bringing inflation down, but they're not great if you're trying to make sure you've got PPE in a country when the next COVID wave hits. So there's an awful lot of things going on. We talk in financial planning like everybody does about making money, but making money in a decent way. Having a level of ethics, and we'll speak about that later on. I do assure you that we know that ethics isn't a county near London. It's a living, breathing thing which matters for people. That they want to earn the money and make the money perform without hurting, degrading, polluting, or abusing anybody. Conventionally in the industry, that's called environmental, social, and governance investment. But 2 United States have actually banned that. Now, I haven't gone into it that deeply. I've not found out whether it's Alabama or Mississippi, like I guess it is, but it wouldn't surprise me. And so you can see that there's a lot of trends that are all over the place. And what I want to remind everybody is that we're talking about the long term. We were in a meeting yesterday with a manager of a fund. He says, we advise for 50 years. So you think about yourself in 50 years' time. I won't be here in 50 years' time unless something goes horribly wrong. I hope Newcastle win the cup by then. But we're talking about decades, and therefore it's fundamentals that matter, not trends. So we have to kind of revert back and go, okay, before we start, what is a financial advisor? Why can we sit here and speak to you and talk to you about something as important and vital as your future? It isn't just because we're nosy. Trust me, after all these years, we're not. But what is a financial advisor? You have to have professional exams passed. I'm told a degree equivalent, although I don't know, in some ways they were more difficult than my degree. My degree was a history degree, so maybe that explains things, I don't know. Within those exams, you have regular updates. We probably have to pass an exam every 3 months to make sure our information and our knowledge is up to date, because as you know, the rules change. Every time there's a budget, every time there's an autumn statement, every time there's new legislation, every time there's a new factor in the world, every time you get a credit crunch or an invasion or something goes wrong, or you get Brexit, or the pound goes up or down, the situation changes. So we have to have an annual attestation as to our continued fitness, regulatory oversight by the Financial Conduct Authority, and all of that is designed for your confidence in our service. Now, as a cynic, and I apologize for my flippancy and cynicism, but sorry, there's nothing much I can do about it. It would be really nice if instead of having all of those exams, we just had a TV series like the Yorkshire Vet or the Yorkshire Auction House or the Yorkshire whatever it is. They all seem to be in Yorkshire. The gallant square-jawed heroes striding over the snowbound hills of Selby to save some lady's potential future annuity. But funnily enough, nobody wants to put that on Sunday night telly. So we have to do it properly with the correct level of oversight, regulation, qualifications, and everything there is designed to make sure you, the client, is as protected as is possible. This is not one of those things where we talk about buyer beware. We have to make sure that we put you in a better place. Wilma is going to go through exactly how we do that with a wealth management thing and planning and everything else. So she'll show you about that now.
Thank you very much, Bill. So that was a nice quick update on what's going on in the macro sort of economy, I guess. But I guess for you who may have not done financial planning before, may not know what it's all about, I'm going to go more into how you as an individual can make changes to your life, potentially what you can think about. We all have our own journey that we go on. Typically, this is what it sort of looks like on this graph. Obviously, not everyone's going to hit every spot, but at some point in our life, we come across one of these little areas where we need help. And if there's quite a lot of people out there capable, there's a lot of people servicing themselves. But if you're not in a position where you can do that, or you don't feel like you understand, this is where a financial planner can really provide benefit and help you with those things. The most common one, I guess, that people do engage with is mortgage advice. But actually, there's loads of different areas. Whatever your dream is where financial planning can really play a part in that. So I'll go on to what that means. So I talked about, and I think was in our advert, we talked about knowing yourself. So in financial services, we have know your client, and we have to demonstrate as advisors that we really know our clients inside and out, that we know our clients almost better than their spouse knows them. Our clients sometimes tells us stuff that they don't tell their spouse. They sometimes tells us stuff that they don't tell their children, and that's really important because we need to know the ins and outs of what your dreams and aspirations are in order to support you and help you get there. It's a very emotional, I think people think finances is a very like black and white thing, but it's a very emotional journey of really trying to see what is holding you back from achieving that. But it starts with pretty much the basics. And this is what we do with all clients, is we go through what their income and expenditure is. And that's income from all sources, because I think people sometimes overlook like the drips and drabs from different places, like child benefit, for example. Yeah, it's only £140 a month, but it's an additional income that you're potentially wasting on nothing that you could be utilizing more effectively. Then your expenditure, and again, really detailed, what is your expenditure down to every coffee you buy every morning on the way to work. What are you spending money on? And then looking at breaking that down, looking at what your expenses are, in breaking it down into what your needs are and what your wants are. And if your wants and then what you're spending on is on, if where you're spending your money is majority on your wants rather than your needs, then there's something that you need to do about that. You need to start prioritizing. And what I mean by needs as well is not just your housing, your food, those are the obvious utilities. Your protection, making sure that if you have something in place that can provide you an income, if, for instance, you can't go to work anymore. A lot of people that I've come across with clients have never known that income protection is actually a policy out there. And yet everybody knows about house insurance, everybody knows about life insurance nowadays, luckily, but income protection is equally as important. I can't remember the exact statistic now, but I'm sure it was roughly in the 30% of, there's only about 30% of people that get employee benefits, that get the sort of sick pay from their employer. Most people go on to statutory sick pay, and there's lots of calculators out there from providers to show you what the impact on your household finances will be if suddenly you can't provide an income to yourself and your family anymore. So protection is really, really important. Then you've got savings. How many of us have got our credit cards as an emergency fund to deal with any breakdown in our car, or a boiler breakdown, or a washing machine breakdown? How many of us really have got an emergency fund saved up? That is a need. That is something that is going to help get you out of the financial cycle of constant debt and struggle. So having an emergency fund allows you to dip into that. And I've come across people before thinking they can't start saving unless they've paid their debt off. That's absolutely not true. You can do both at the same time. One's obviously holidays, cars, motorbikes, excess. We've all got different things that we want to spend our money on, but is that necessarily where we should spend our money? And that's the question. Now, we're not saying don't enjoy your life, don't do that. It's not about that. It's more about how much are you spending, and are you prioritizing the right sort of things? It's about understanding what your spending habits are, what the driver is behind your spending. And quite often what we find is there's an emotional lack of control when it comes to the sort of emotional spending, always going for the next bigger thing, just wanting to escape on a holiday, or just wanting to go, and people aren't necessarily dealing with what's behind their emotional spending. So ask yourself, what's your dream? If you had a magic wand, where do you see yourself? Do you see it where would you like to see yourself in 0 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, 10 plus years into retirement? How do you see yourself retiring? What age do you see yourself retiring? Where do you see yourself retiring? Are you going to stay in this country? Are you going to go abroad? This is about your dream. This is not about, I guess, let's put it this way, living as a mother at the moment, juggling life with young children, ill relatives, and all of that. It does feel a bit like survival mode at times. But ultimately, when you're in that sort of survival mode, it's quite hard to dream and think, well, what's the point? I'm never going to achieve that. But if you don't define what your dream is, and you don't define how you're ever going to achieve that, at least if you have set that out and you've decided this is what I would like to achieve, getting halfway there is better than never getting there at all and giving up at the outset. So really define this. And yeah, you might put it in your 0 to 5 years, but if you achieve it at the 10 plus year mark, what does it matter? You've managed to actually achieve it. So this is where we dream big, and we have a magic wand, and we see what we want to do and what we want to achieve. And then we ask ourselves, how are we going to get there? Okay. How much do I need to get there? What do I actually need in order to achieve that dream? How long have I got? Have I got 5 years? Have I got 10 years? Some people are closer to retirement than others. Some people haven't even thought about retirement yet, because right now they're just thinking about paying off their debt. So how long have you got in order to get there? And what do you need to change to get there? Do you need to cut back on your spending? Do you need to cut a toxic person who's draining you and financially abusing you out of your life? Someone that you're potentially supporting, that you're not getting anything back out of that relationship. What's holding you back? What are you going to do about it? This is about taking responsibility. This is about saying, this is my finances. I'm going to take control of it. I've only got one life. And in order to achieve my dreams, most of the time, I need money to do that. I think Miley Cyrus just recently, well, I don't think, obviously, no, Miley Cyrus recently released a song about, I can buy myself flowers. And ironically, I sat there going, yeah, it's all well and good if you have money, you can buy yourself flowers, but you can't necessarily just do that and be independent without the right sort of money behind you. And if you're struggling with this, if you're struggling with your situation and you're finding this all a bit overwhelming and actually starting to avoid it, because that's what a lot of people do tend to find themselves, and they're just avoiding doing that. Who have you spoken to about that? Who have you asked for help? Again, like I say, with my experience with sort of working for Escape and the charity, it can be as simple as going to your GP. If there's something that's really draining you in your life, GPs have amazing contacts to people that they can refer you to. And if that is that you need to engage with a charity to help get you to the point where you feel capable of walking away from someone who's financially abusing you, then do that. Do that step first, and then start taking control of your finances. It's all about those little steps and putting your mental health first, I guess. When was the last time you paid yourself in order to get your aspirations? I think, again, I'm talking from a mother perspective, but I know this affects dads as well. We tend to spend so much money on our children, and we tend to they've got a new bag every school season, and they've got a new pencil case, or they've got new clothes every 6 months. They've got new shoes all the time, and yet we're wearing scrags from 10 years ago. But when was the last time sort of you paid yourself in terms of your savings so that you can go and buy yourself some nice clothes? and kind of starting to think about that. I think if you've ever engaged with a financial planner, they'll say, how much do you spend on clothes? How much do you spend? And then sometimes people go, well, I don't spend money on clothes. But the reality is sometimes you do. And it's kind of thinking about what you're doing, what money you're putting away in order to achieve those things. It could go bigger than that. It could go that you're wanting to buy a house. You know, it could go that you're wanting to invest in a new car. You have your dream car. And not realistically, not any of us can actually afford that in 1 month saving. So we have to build that and plan that over the long term. And then, of course, the biggest thing that everyone's talking about is pension and that independence at retirement, and what we're going to do about that, and how long and when can we retire. And ask yourself, are you really worth it? And I mean, if the answer to that question is no, then I suggest trying to get some help and getting some mental health support, because you definitely are worth it. So we've spoken about how to get to your ideal, but let's talk about the reality. So we have our ideal, we can dream and it's all great, but when you start to face reality and you think, well, okay, I would love to achieve this, but realistically, am I going to be able to? What is it going to take for me to get there realistically? And I think this is where a financial planner can really help to map that out for you. So we do cash flow forecasting for people. We see how much, then it takes into consideration inflation and all the things. Obviously, we can't predict what the future really holds, but we can kind of gauge probably a little bit better than what the average person on the street can, because we have the software to support that. These are the sort of elements you want to be thinking about when you're looking at your finances and doing a big audit and overall. Obviously, everybody's different. We're not here gathering information. So this is where, which kind of spoke at the start about financial planners tend to know everything about your life more than what anybody else does. But that's in order to say to you as an individual what your priorities are. So if you're a single person with no children, no dependents, you might not need protection, for example. You may have enough savings in the bank to cover some sickness. That's perfectly fine. But if you haven't got those things, have you got the protection in place in order to cover for those emergencies? And have you got the protection in place to support your family if you were no longer here, for example, or you were no longer able to work? Income protection. Honestly, I believe every single person needs income protection, because you just don't know what life can throw at you. Last year, my mum had a stroke and she didn't have income protection because she thought it was too expensive. But the reality is the expense of her having to cope with just having a stroke and trying to navigate through that whilst juggling her finances and worrying how she's going to be able to pay a mortgage if her sickness benefit runs out. That was a real reality for her, and she probably returned to work sooner than what she should have as a result of that. And there's so many people that find themselves in this situation. Pensions. Obviously, everyone talks about retirement, but how do you know whether what you're saving at the moment is adequate? And this is where cash flow modeling can really play a big part. Savings, investments kind of speak for themselves. The investment side of things, obviously, we would never advise someone to invest money unless they've got all the other elements in place first. Investments is once you've got the rest of your financial priorities in order, and then you can start investing and start making yourself money. And obviously, like Bill said, there's a benefit. We as financial planners never have this. We don't win if you don't win. That's the reality. So I think people sometimes don't trust financial advisors, but actually there's no incentive for us to see you fail, is the reality of it. And then debt, which I think sometimes gets forgotten about, or it can just be managed. But as long as that debt remains affordable and you have an end in sight, that's fine. But if your debt is swallowing you up and you are drowning in it and it's costing you more to pay your debt back than to service your bills, then that's when you need to start engaging with debt management companies and trying to see how you can take control of that. And then finally, estate planning. So how many of you out there have got a will in place? How many of you out there have thought about bloodline protection and whether you the money and the wealth that you might have been left from a previous generation is getting passed on, and now you've got an inheritance tax problem. Is there trust needed there? How many of you have got a lasting power of attorney in place? So who's going to look after your finances, or who's going to make decisions on your health and welfare if you can't make those mental capacity decisions anymore? And I think this is, again, something that's associated with older people. But the reality is people are in car accidents all the time and get brain damage. And then who's taking over those finances? If you've got a shared bank account, for example, the person who you share that bank account, if they have lost mental capacity, then half the assets in that bank account gets frozen and you can't touch them without a lasting power of attorney. So it's thinking about these things to put in place to keep your life simple, I guess. So what can employers do to help? I don't know if anybody who's on at the moment is an employer or has influence at work, but the main thing really is financial planning, again, can be a form of employee benefit. If you can put insurances in place to help pay sickness for your employees. You can put income protection as an additional benefit, and that could be a lot cheaper than another pay rise, for example. A lot of protection policies come with added value benefits, free mental health services, second opinion GP services, all online, physio, usually fast tracking past all of the waiting times of the NHS. Pension schemes, how many, I don't know who's on, but how many of you have got good pension schemes? And what I mean by a good pension scheme is ethical. Where's your money invested? What companies are they, where's your money basically invested, and what companies are you supporting through your pension? It's ultimately still an investment. How much choice have you got in the funds that are available to you and your employees? Have you just set up a bog standard pension scheme just as a tick box exercise when the government suggested that everybody should have pensions all of a sudden as an employer? Have you got a personal advice service in a financial planning company where your employees have someone to go to? I know a lot of people have mental health services, for example, but have they got someone they can go and talk to for financial planning? These are all employee benefits that don't really cost that much money, to be honest. Open dialogue, supporting your employees' planning. So encouraging employees to engage in planning through communication. So imagine a world where there's posters up going, are you thinking of having a baby in the next 5 to 10 years? What can we do to help support you in that journey as an employer? Well, what's the benefit for you in that? As you can actually, as an employer, also plan for that, plan for their absence, plan for the fact, how can you support them? I think there's been some other workshops as well on supporting women back into the workplace. There's a lot of companies starting to offer more benefits for men to take paternal leave because of the impact it has. There was a survey out on the Financial Times recently on the number of men between the ages of 25 and 40 on long-term sick has risen by more than 50% in the last few years. That's a prime time for dads, so they're obviously struggling. How can you support them? Laura Barker, she's one of the speakers. She's doing a breakfast bite size on Friday. So if you want to attend that, it's all about supporting women and back into the workplace on Friday. And she highlighted a statistic that said 85% of women leave the workforce or drop to part-time hours after having a baby. Now, when I worked at Santander, so before I came and joined HRC, I worked at Santander for 9 years. And when I was young and naive and in my early 20s, I also joined in on the chat on the floor about women just have a baby so they can go off work. I joined in on that banter. And eventually, when I had my own baby and I realized the impact of the cost of childcare and what is forcing women out of the workplace, my whole I could completely understand it for a change. But even a big company like Santander isn't talking about that. So it's about having those conversations and planning for them. Nicola Mercer, another one of the speakers who's going to be doing a thing, talked about the Champion Health financial well-being statistics showed that 40% of mental health people struggle, that they say that their financial situation worsens when they've got mental health conditions. They struggle to manage their finances more, and poor mental health can be like the charity Mind said that poor mental health can make earning and managing money harder, and it turns into this big vicious cycle in the end. And then something I am really, really passionate about is women and retirement. And these statistics will shock you, but there's a quick, can you still see the screen? Is it still showing on Scottish Widows? Yeah.
It's still showing your presentation.
Oh, okay. How do I?
If you go, so you're sharing not that window, but your screen, or just change what you're sharing, it should.
2 seconds. Yeah. Yeah. You see that now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Scottish Widows do a lot of work on women and their wealth and the disparities between wealth and women. And they have these shocking statistics about the income gender gap, which obviously everyone's talking about. But what I want to make people aware of is the pension wealth and the horrible statistic of over 75 plus women retiring with less than half the men. And women's income between 65 and 70, again, is half than men. Across the board, to be honest, women have less retirement. And there's loads of different reasons for that. Women, obviously, like we said before, either stop working or go down to part-time hours, therefore have a lower income and unable to contribute to their retirement more. But also later on in life, women tend to take the caring role for elderly relatives, and sort of all the way along a woman's journey, work takes a bit of a backseat. And I think that's something to bear in mind as an employer, to make women aware of this. And I think it's not about putting more pressure on women to stay in the workplace, but it's about seeing how you can support them during these challenging times so that they can also have the same sort of income and ability to save for retirement. So I'll go back to the presentation quickly. It was just to kind of make you aware of it. You can look at it in a bit more detail. They do a full report quite regularly and update statistics. Now, how can we help you? So the key thing really is that we're third-party oversight in your life and your spending habits. We spend a lot of time speaking to people. We offer the 2-hour we offer 2-hour sessions where we just go through people's needs and wants and priorities and what we can do for them. And it's only really at implementation stage where we start actually taking a fee or charging a fee. So people don't realize that free advice that exists. People associate financial planners as being expensive, but actually you can see most financial planners for free from the offset with no commitment or obligation to go any further. But that opportunity gives you an opportunity for us to look at your life, your spending habits, and identify and highlight any risks and challenges in achieving your goals. Sorry, the things I can't really see the presentation properly because of the cameras on the side. We're heavily regulated and we've got high expectations. There's a lot of high expectations for advisors to keep our knowledge up to date. Like Bill said right at the beginning, we have to pass exams regularly every 3 months. We have to show that we have to get a statement of professional standing every year, where we have to even provide as much as our credit report every year to show that we are sound in order to give advice to people. We are very heavily regulated. We are watched even down to what we advertise on social media. That's why you probably don't see a lot of posts from advisors on social media, because we're so heavily regulated. Everything we say is being watched. Someone to challenge your priorities. So if you are spending emotionally and you aren't doing quite what you're then we can challenge those sort of priorities and think about what you should be prioritizing instead. Someone to hold you accountable if something goes wrong, someone to hold accountable if something goes wrong. So obviously you can do your own research, you can spend a lot of time setting all your own stuff up, but if something goes wrong and it doesn't go to plan, then you've only got yourself to blame. Whereas if you involve an advisor and you involve a financial planner and something goes wrong, you've got someone else to blame, I guess, and we have to take the fall for that and sort it out for you. It's someone to support you and your family through the ups and downs of life. So we showed that nice little curve, but the reality, it's probably a lot more up and down than just the nice straight up curve. And financial planners are there to ring when you see something in the news and you're worried about that. You can pick up the phone and find out. Or even something as simple as a relative has recently died. What do I do? Where do I go? What's the next steps? It's pretty much as simple as that. Someone to help you curb your compulsions and feedback if they feel you're being taken advantage of. So we obviously discuss goals, aspirations with individuals, and then suddenly they might come to us and say, we want to take £10,000 out of our investment. Whereas if you in the digital world nowadays, if you have just a bank account, you can just withdraw that money and hand it over to whoever is abusing you financially. But a financial planner can kind of ask you, well, what's that money really for? And finding out from you, it's like still that human interaction where that's been lost, I think, along the way in a lot of financial services. Whereas financial planners can be sort of that, right, where's that, what is this money really for, what's really going on, and support you through that, point you in the right direction of where to get help if you need it. Ethics.
Oh.
I think I've spoken enough. My mouth is a bit dry, so I think I'm going to hand this one over to Bill.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Wilma, for all of that, and thanks for landing me the one about the financial advisor has to talk to about ethics. As I said before, we know it's not a county near London. We've gone through the basics of the professional answer about our professionalism, our insurance, our regulatory framework. Let me give you the flippant one. We live here. We're not difficult to find. This is Newcastle. This is the northeast of England. Everybody knows each other. People will tolerate if you make a mistake. Not about money though. So we treat your money and your lives with incredible care. Probably more care than often our clients do. So what I would encourage you to do is find somebody who can advise you, who you trust, who trusts you. I don't mean about the good chap thing. I mention that because I remember a stockbroker pal of mine about 10 years ago saying, oh, Bill, would you go and see this nice lady in the wilds of County Durham? You know, and I'd been to a presentation on gender equality. And I said, oh, yeah, of course I will, but why me? And he said, oh, you're a good chap. I says, well, yeah. You've seen me talking about football. You've seen me talking about whatever it was. You've never actually come to the office. You've never actually done any due diligence on my work. You've never checked my qualifications. Every single professional female I speak to say that they have to go through that. Yet, because I'm in a bar somewhere with a pint wrapped around my fist, I kind of qualify. So being a good chap isn't enough. We encourage inquiries. We encourage you to inquire into what's going on with people who can advise you. Trust is something that is earned. You can give it and you can regret it a lifetime, but trust is earned. And we're very aware of that because we deal with people who are vulnerable. We don't talk about vulnerability as some sort of amorphous thing. We actually define it because we have people who, by their age, their experience, their medical condition, their psychological being, their, you know, they may have deafness issues, they may have language issues. They are deemed to be vulnerable, whether or not they say they are, and we treat them with extra care. To be honest, I think anybody who needs help and advice about their money is vulnerable to a certain extent, and we have to totally respect that. I mentioned conflicts because, you know, this isn't about my opinion. if I think the stock market's going to boom next year, not that I do, by the way, it's not my responsibility to tell you that. It's my responsibility to listen to you, to find out how you feel about what you need to do to make sure it works. And then we talk about the intimacy of money. Again, being flippant. This is Tyneside. People talk to each other. You find out unbelievable things about complete strangers you meet on a bus. Then you say, how much did you earn last month? And they go, oh, I'm not telling you that. It's personal, because it is. It's incredibly important. I could reduce financial planning to a kind of sentence in that it's what your granny said. You protect yourself and you save up. You protect yourself and others who are vulnerable and need your help and support, and you save up because you need to have a house. Because if you want to stop working, and we all want to stop working and do nothing or do something that makes us happy, you need to have somewhere to live. You're back to the hierarchy of needs. Now, I mean, Wilma's generation, the hierarchy of needs is signal, you know, battery life and all that. But back in the day, it was food and shelter. So to get food and shelter in this day and age, you need to have a house and about £1,000 a month on average, just to keep going. Now, if you're renting and you intend to carry on doing that, then you need to have something that will pay that rent. If you're thinking about going to the council, I was with a couple yesterday, they're trying to get a council bungalow because the lady's got extreme pain with arthritis. It's going to cost £163 a week for a bungalow. That is the great majority of one of their state pensions. So it isn't easy to, you know, it isn't easy to afford. So saving up is really, really vital. It's about self-care, food and shelter, fundamentals. To some people in this society, ethics is a luxury. It's a luxury they can't afford, they don't think about because they're so desperate. I'd like to think that if somebody's working at a professional occupation or any occupation, they should have the ability to save up for a better future, to buy a house, to think about going on holiday the odd time, buy a car or a motorbike or a bicycle or whatever, and look forward to a long and prosperous and happy retirement. And by doing so, by putting the money in that savings, when they have the ability to do so, when debt has been paid off, when discharging responsibilities to make sure that if anything happens to them, then they can continue, because in this society, money matters. If your car goes wrong and you need a taxi, you know, bless them, they don't just take people for nothing. You need to be able to pay. And when we come to how we can influence that, that's about taking care of yourself, your family, your friends, other people around you. It's about taking care of society. And it's also a way of putting that money into places where you can influence, as Wilma said before, the world in a better way. Putting your money into an ethical fund in a pension scheme, everybody who is employed has got to have access to an automatic enrolment pension scheme. I know when Wilma said, oh yeah, the government said you got to do it, people had to all of a sudden tick a box. I was there, and it was a bit hairy for a while because nobody really knew what was going on, certainly not the Department of Work and Pensions. And the schemes that are available now are much better than the ones that were available in 2016, which were a bit slapdash. But now you maybe don't want to have battery farmed eggs. You maybe want to have free range things. You maybe want to have ethical food. You maybe want to have fair trade clothes. You maybe want to have your pension in a fund that would go to a shareholders meeting and demand better conditions for workers in Sri Lanka, Indonesia, and other places, and demand that people don't pollute and degrade and exploit. So all of these things are worthwhile, because in the end, the intimacy of money is both ways. So you end up somewhere sitting out the back in your garden in the sunshine, looking around you, hopefully with a sound of happiness all around you, with dignity and love. So this is all about getting to dignity through satisfying your financial needs, saving up, looking after yourself and others. And for that, you need financial planning. I think we've spoken enough. So if anybody's got any questions at all, fire them over. You want to talk about how Newcastle's going to do on Sunday, I don't mind dealing with that either, you know. And if anybody's got any questions on netball, then, you know, but there we go.
I had a question that I put in the chat just while it came to me, Wilma, which was about income protection, and if you can get income protection as a self-employed person.
Yes,
yeah.
that's probably the most common place when you would get it, because a self-employed person wouldn't have any employee benefits. So if you have income protection in place instead, you can defer your period of when you can start claiming at any point that's suitable for you. So if you have got some savings to cover you maybe for 1 or 2 months worth of your salary, then you can defer the income protection to start claiming after 2 months. But some people don't have that luxury, so you can have the income protection from day one. So if you're unable to work, you can claim, and you can get a payment for usually between 60 and 75% of your wage. And you can adjust the term of the income protection as well, of what you want to pay. It's all about what you can afford, really. So we would always advise everyone to take an income protection policy that would pay their wage until retirement, because that is the risk, is that you might not have be able to provide yourself with an income until retirement. But some people can't afford all the bells and whistles, so you can reduce it down to 5 years or even 2 years, benefits being paid out. But it just gives you that luxury of being able to actually recover and to spend time recovering of whatever's impacted you. But it's most appropriate for self-employed people. I would say all self-employed people would need it.
Yeah, it's more I mean, most employees, as you say, will have some form of sick pay, even if it's just a week or two. Self-employment, you can even get cover for day one. You know, you can literally get it so you have the flu for 2 days. And the insurance underwriters love self-employed people, because they know self-employed people tend to go to work because they don't have sick pay. But it's one of those things, you know, it can be the highest priority for somebody. You know, if you've got toddlers running around, you probably want to make sure that there's some life insurance. But again, the things that you don't see on the advert for life insurance is putting the policy into a trust. And the reason that's important, that's just a piece of paper. And it just basically says, I want this money to go to this person to look after these people. And it means that, and forgetting anything complicated about things like inheritance tax and all that sort of stuff, which is important, maybe, you know, for some, it's really important for the average member of the public who doesn't have a will. Because if you die intestate, if you die without a will, and all of a sudden you've got £400,000 in the life insurance policy, you'll find that not all the money necessarily goes to, you know, spouses, kids, whatever. It goes to your great Auntie Agnes in Dundee, who you never much liked in the first place. You put it in trust, you can get all of the money in weeks. It doesn't even have to go through probate. Again, people don't know that because people tend not to engage with financial advisors because we don't have that Sunday evening TV series. One day, you know, we'll maybe be good at that.
I look forward to seeing that.
Anybody else got any questions?
Excellent. Benumbed silence.
I had another question then, if
Go on then.
Nobody else has. I just wondered what advice you would give to somebody who was an unequal contributor to the finances in their relationship. So they are maybe not earning as much as their partner.
We were talking about that before.
Yeah.
We were saying that often you get the conventional sense where, I don't know, somebody earns, say, 70-30 of the household income, and how often that 30% is seen as, oh, that's for the luxuries, that's for the nice things. We would say no. When you get to the point where at the age of, imagine being 55 years old and being able to say, right, I'm off to the West Indies to watch the cricket.
I mean, that would never be my choice for a holiday. But I'm coming with you, Bill.
All right, you know what I mean. You can go to the West Indies and say, I'm not going anywhere near the cricket. They can go to hell.
There we go.
I'm going to sit on this beach in Antigua and watch QVC or do anything I like. That's fine. But you're 55 and you can do that. And then you come home and you go, oh, I don't have to take that job because I don't like the boss. And they go, oh yeah, but we really need your advice on this one, Susie. We really need you. Okay, well, I'll go, but you got to pay me 10 grand. Having that ability is incredible. I would say for an equal partner, provided you got the budget, that is a fantastic chance to bung money into a long-term savings thing like a pension, because you get tax relief, the money will grow, and God forbid anything happens to anybody like that, the money goes free of tax straight to their dependents. And, you know, you die before the age of 75, you've got a pension scheme, all of it. This is George Osborne. I don't know why he did it, whether he did it by mistake or by accident. But that was something good that he did. Bless him for that. So you've got money in a pension fund. It grows free of tax. You can't really touch it till you're 55, and that's going up to 57, 58 when retirement age is regularizes. But God forbid anything happens, it's available tax-free. So it's a very good idea, but only if you can afford it, because we're presuming you're not going to see that money again for a while. But I would use that minority income often for the core of your future savings. Use the majority income for the core of your immediate needs for protection, which will be cheaper, because there's a very, very good chance that you're going to survive and have a pension. Like 95, 96, 97%, there's a very small chance that anything bad's going to happen along the way. But if it does, it's calamitous and it needs to be dealt with.
As well, Susie, I think that when you're the earner of the household, like the lower earner of the household, or you might not be earning at all, you could be, I think, subconsciously, we sometimes devalue ourselves in those situations because we're not providing as much. But what we need to remember is, for whatever reason, we are not able to earn as much, and it's usually because we're providing a service that's completely free, whether looking after children or we're looking after elderly relatives. And I think that's really devalued by society at the moment. And it's important that as an individual, that we recognize the value that we bring. Ultimately, by being the person who is picking up the kids every day and working a part-time job, you are enabling the other person to go to work and do that thing. And if you're no longer there, if you don't exist anymore and something's happened to you, someone else is going to have to provide that service. It's going to have to be a childcare provider. It's going to have to be potentially the person who is currently working full-time. So you are providing value, and therefore that should be recognized and in some way, I guess, remunerated in a way that's either that person potentially paying into your pension scheme on your behalf. That you could do that. You can pay into a spouse's pension scheme to try and reduce your tax bill as well. That all these things can happen. People are paying
the children's pension.
Yeah, you can pay into children's pension schemes. People are paying to the tax man when they could be paying into their family's pensions. So there's all of these things that people aren't talking about.
That's really interesting. Thank you. I don't know if James had any questions. I think that might be it.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I will just I'll stop the recording now, and thank you very much for coming and talking to us.
Thanks very much, Susie. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.